It didn't relate to anyone else. I didn't ever expect I was going to be sharing this stuff. At first it was all longhand and notebooks, but then the source told me to basically take all this and put it into the computer. So as I've said so many times, I started to dictate these things onto tapes, and these were 90-minute audio tapes on a little handheld cassette recorder. And then what would happen is sometimes I'd get like a month behind, and I'd have to sit down and transcribe after I'd gotten home from work. And it was never any lack of astonishment that would happen, because these tapes would be describing what had happened to me right before I sat down at the computer. I started to see that this higher self I had could completely bend linear time. And also, importantly, the dreams that I had were not so much calibrated to when I had the dream, they were calibrated to when I actually transcribed the dream. So some people say, well, I don't want to write my dreams down because they don't seem to make any sense. Well, your dream could be talking about something in the future that you haven't seen yet. And it could be very much that you're guided one day to just pick up your dream book and go take a read. And you go read something that was an old dream, and you're like, oh my God, now I understand, now I get it, this just happened to me. So dreams are a really marvelous resource. I can't stress this enough, that any dream you have is a symbolic message of the single most important thing you need to know for that moment in your life. And there's some guidelines that I shared when I was on my recent cruise with everyone in the audience that are very, very important. The most important thing, regardless of what anyone tells you, is that every single character in the dream is you. There is no other person in your dream. There is no character that refers to anyone but yourself. That means whether it's a man or a woman, whether it's someone old or whether it's a baby, whether it's an animal or a human. Every character in the dream is some part of yourself. Every object in the dream represents some part of yourself, whether it's a beach ball or whether it's a tree or whether it's the entire environment that you're in. So here's some of the other things that are very important. Of course, as I said, every character in the dream is yourself. And those characters have meaning based on your experience with them. So it drives me crazy when people are trying to tell me a dream they had, and they rush right over the name of someone. They don't even bother to go into who that person is in their life or what that person means for them. And I have to stop them and say, wait a minute. Okay, how do you know this person? What do you really feel about them when you get honest? Because different people in your life will be used as symbols of different things within yourself. The only reason why we ever bring anybody into our lives is because they represent some kind of mirror image of who we are. So it's a very important discipline to actually stop yourself and look at the content of the dream. Now, everybody listening has had a dream you can remember. So you can do this with me right now. You can remember a dream that you might have had before and think about the key characters in the dream. Of course, the most important distinction is between male and female. A male character in the dream represents the masculine aspect of your personality. That's the part of you that goes out into the world, takes action, tries to get things moving, tries to be on your quest, to point in a given direction, to follow that path. You're out there working, you're out there slaying the dragon, doing all these archetypal things that you do. The feminine part of yourself is the part that steps away from the quest, to take a breath, to relax, to rebuild, to nourish yourself, to nurture yourself, to take that time by the side of the road, to just breathe and be yourself and be alone. And that's very important, because during those times that you rebuild your energy, you have all the networking going on, you have the helping of others, you have the focus within, and you can learn the lessons and take stock of what's happening as you go forward on the path. So that is the fundamental distinction between male and female. Male, again, is going out there and making things happen, and female is rebuilding your energy when you're not on the quest, nurturing yourself and nurturing others. Both of these things are equally important, and you have people who may be overbalanced in one way or the other. Almost everyone is overbalanced in one way or the other. If you're overbalanced towards the masculine, which actually is happening to many, many women at this time, then you will find yourself very, very strongly focused on ambition, career, reading about things, just plunging forward and having this momentum and having this drive to succeed and to learn and to grow. And you may find yourself so compelled with the search for new information that you just don't know when to stop. You're totally focused and totally absorbed on that quest to keep driving ahead. Well, that's an imbalance. And so what's going to happen is you will have male characters in your dreams who are showing you, to some degree or another, how much of a focus you have in that direction. If you're overbalanced in the direction of the feminine, then it may mean that you have gotten burned or tired from focusing on these goals and these ambitions, and you really just want to give up. You feel a sense of futility, you don't have a desire or a drive or an ambition to do anything, and you want to just sort of relax and nurture, and you feel that you've been wounded, you feel that you've been hurt, and you really just want to sort of sit on the sidelines and kind of take time for yourself and not really do anything. Now, this is not in any way to denigrate the feminine. It's very, very important energy. It's one of the energies that really is the key to our planet moving into the next level. We've had a patriarchy and we need to bring the feminine back. But let's be clear about what the feminine is, because people can overindulge in that. And that's what I was doing in some degree when I was so focused on partying all the time. I did just enough to get through the rest of my life, but I wanted the majority of my life to be this sort of recreational, networking with friends and just not really ever having to be busy. So then, of course, a great part of my life after I got clean was very masculine. The quest for information, the quest for book knowledge. I was reading 5 books a week. I had them all stacked up around the room. And that has largely continued. As you know from my website, I'm very productive. I continue to crank out output at a furious speed. And it has taken me into many, many different directions, which are now coming to a head. So in all of it, I've tried not to lose that core. And again, the dreams will keep bringing you back to your core. My dreams are very honest with me, more than I am even with myself. And your dreams will tell you the problems that you have in your past, and they will focus on those issues that are now reiterating into your present. So this is a very important point. When something happens to you in the past that hurts you, a lot of times you don't process it, you don't deal with it, you don't cleanse it and heal it and get it out of your system. And it actually represents what you could think of as a weight that's pulling you down on the timeline of your life. And if that weight is pulling you down on the timeline, then the timeline of your life doesn't move forward. It loops back around in a circle. And you end up repeating the same experiences with new people that caused you to feel so hurt and so shattered in the past. You will go right back to that same gravity well in your soul again. What your dream is going to do is show you scenes from the past that are the same gravity well that you now have in the present. And in fact, these are not just single events. These gravity wells will stack on top of each other over multiple cycles where you keep going round and round in circles, experiencing the same things, having the same type of people show up in your life that fulfill the same roles. And this is actually what really happens. It's not so much that your life continues on different directions. Most people's lives are very repetitive. The Law of One material speaks at some length about this endless cycle that people get stuck in, where they just keep repeating the same things, and they call that true helplessness. You can break out of that cycle by paying attention to your dreams, realizing how each character might be some person that you know from the past, and that person, what that person meant for you and how they might have hurt your feelings or any type of thing that happened with that person is entirely relevant to what the dream means. Colors, of course, correspond to the chakras. Red is the root chakra, safety, sexuality, and security. Orange is the second chakra, which deals with issues of your self-esteem, whether you have it or whether you don't have it. Yellow corresponds to how you deal with others, how you get along socially. Green corresponds to the heart, to unconditional love. Light blue corresponds to wisdom, honor, communication, how effectively do you communicate. Dark blue corresponds to issues with the deep mind, the intuition, the focusing of consciousness, and violet, of course, corresponds to the true pathway back to the infinite, the sense of foreverness, timelessness, the true ascension process as you become a true ascended master